The reverse job fair is exactly what it sounds like. It's a job fair, but instead of the businesses having a table and doing the presentation, our job candidates have the table and do the presentation. And so it's really cool because it allows our job candidates really to showcase and highlight their best skills and abilities. And business partners can kind of see them in action. It's an opportunity for them to show what they can do instead of trying to talk about what they can do. And so we first came up with the idea. We have a collaborative team of people that work together, and we thought this would be a great service to businesses. And so on our team was a Voc Rehab, the Department for the Blind, some of our community rehab providers, the Center for Independent Living, Aging Resources, and then we also had representatives from the local high school join our team and participate as well. And so the next slide. Some of the benefits for our job seekers are that it really allows them to show what they can do. And we amp up their resume, we help them with their elevator speech, we do a lot of practicing beforehand. And so a lot of our job candidates have actually said that they thought, we call it a boot camp, but they thought the boot camp was even more beneficial actually than the event because they learned so much about themselves and so much about how to present themselves to a business. They also have said a benefit to them is they've gained a lot of confidence in doing this. Sometimes they themselves believed that they weren't able to work, and just by going through this process and hearing the feedback from the business partners, they now know that they can work. The employers, some of their the benefits to them are everybody that comes to the reverse job fair is highly prepared. And so they're able to connect with people who are ready to work. The businesses have told us they really like to come in and look around the room and identify who they want to go to and just beeline to that person. They've said oftentimes when we're in a career fair, we're watching people come in and then a person will come in and they close their eyes and they fold their hands and they pray, come to my table, come to my table. And the person walks by their table. And so they love that they're able to go talk to the people that they're, I guess, interested in. It also really gives them a chance to see our job candidates' strengths and abilities in a way that's more creative. And so next slide. So we found one of the easiest ways to begin this was really to establish a plan. And we felt that if we were going to do this reverse job fair, the most important thing for us was to have prepared job candidates. So we created a workshop. And in the workshop, it was a one-day workshop. We had stations. And so we set it up very similar to a conference. And all of the job candidates who were going to participate came in, and we kind of did the welcome and talked them through what they could expect throughout this whole process. And then they broke into stations. And in our stations, we would have like the 30-second elevator speech. We would have, we called it the look. How do you dress for work? Or how do you dress for your interview? We had a resume station. And actually at our resume station, we had brought our partners from IWD in, and they helped the job candidates with their resumes, maybe help them change some words on their resumes. And we also had interviewing. And so in our interviewing station, we had business partners who did all the mock interviewing. And so at the end of this, all of our staff who made the referrals of job candidates get a little report of what the next steps for our job candidates should be. And this is really where the work came in. We found that every job candidate that we referred to participate in the reverse job fair takes about 40 hours to work with to get them prepared. And so the event is just to give them information so that they can be the best selves they can be by the time they come to the reverse job fair. During the next 2 weeks, we then spend a lot of one-on-one time working with our job candidates to get them prepared. The next step is to do a dry run. And this is really important because then the job candidates understand kind of what it's going to be like, what's expected of them. They can set up their display. They get to practice a lot of times. We invite employers to this as well because they give better feedback than we do to our job candidates. The very first reverse job fair we did, it was super interesting because a lot of job candidates decided they didn't want to have a display. They just wanted to stand at a booth and give their presentation. And when we did the dry run, they realized that everybody else looked better because they had all of these boards and props and different things going on. And they saw that we tended to walk past their booths because there was nothing that drew us into their booth. And so they quickly went back to their counselor and created props and boards for their booths. And so this was a good step for our job candidates as well. And then the final step is our reverse job fair. And that, I can't even tell you how much fun it is to watch our job candidates who come in. We do the reverse job fair mostly for job candidates that have been a little bit more difficult to place, maybe don't have a lot of work experience, have more limited abilities. Those are the ones that we have found really benefit the most from this type of a job fair. And so it's so much fun to watch them grow their confidence, grow their skills, and gain jobs. And so the next slide is finding a location. And we are a voc rehab agency, and we have money, but we do not have money that we can spend on locations. And so the location that we needed to find had to be free. And we sometimes use our voc rehab office. Sometimes we partner with a community college and have it within the community college. We've also had it in the basement of a church. And so we've had to be really creative in where we've held the location. The things we've learned about the location, that parking is super important. When we had it in locations that charged for parking or they had to walk a long ways to get to the location, our feedback from our business partners was poor. And so we learned we needed to find a location that was super accessible, had easy parking. And the other thing we found was that each of our events, our rehearsal, our workshop, and our actual reverse job fair all needed to be in the same place. And that helped our job candidates to really understand, here's how I get there, here's where I park, here's how I get to the room, here's where my booth is going to be. So it really takes a lot of those anxieties out before the day of the event. Step 4, and it's identifying our job candidates. And so the one thing that we found was really, really important was not to refer more people to this process than we were able to support, because it's very time consuming. Updating the resume, creating the board, creating the props, doing the mock interviewing, doing the 30-second elevator speech, creating that confidence, talking about what to wear, making sure that everything was ready. And so we found that each one of us was only able to support no more than 5 people. And like I said, each person that we referred took about 40 hours in prep time per person. We have no criteria for the referrals other than they want to work and they're going to come to all 3 of the events. We tried one time where we let our job candidates just come without going through the rehearsal, and they were not as successful as those that actually went through the whole process. And so we do ask them to fill out an application and commit to coming to all 3 steps. On the application, we also have a release of information. This is how we track who's participated, and then our follow-up as far as where they've interviewed and the jobs that they've been offered. On there is also some expectations that they're going to put forth their best self, that they're going to attend the event, that they're willing to work with us. We also have a PR release on there, and I can send you guys the application if you're interested in that. Step 5, next slide, is identifying the employers. And so when our job candidates get referred, I guess I'm kind of the one that monitors everything. So when the job candidates get referred to me, on the application, it has a spot that talks about what their ideal employment goal would be. And so I divide those out into sectors, and I identify the employers we're going to invite based on the needs of my job candidates who are coming to the reverse job fair. And so when I invite employers, I let them know we have 5 people who are interested in customer service. We have 10 people who are interested in janitorial and maintenance. We have 6 people that are interested in retail. So employers can kind of look at their immediate needs and determine if they're only looking for construction workers, then we're probably not a very good job fair to go to because we don't have anybody identified that's interested in construction work. So we target our employers based on the needs of our job candidates, and we let them know how many job candidates we have looking for work in all of the different sectors. We send them invitations electronically, and I also put it on their calendars in an email invite that they can respond to. And when they RSVP, we ask them for the openings they have and the job descriptions for those openings, so that as we're working with our job candidates, we make their resumes really relevant to the businesses that are coming. And we change their resumes to incorporate the words and the skills that the businesses coming to our reverse job fair are actually looking for. And so it's really important that they send us their job descriptions of the positions that they're currently hiring for. We also invite them when we see them in person. We make some phone calls to get them there. Next slide is step 6, and that's our work.
Sorry, Michelle. We have
hi.
a question. This is Allie. We had a question from Sandy Jordan from South Carolina. So she asked, is there a concern of automatic disability disclosure? I could see some individuals not want to participate because they don't want to disclose a disability.
We don't ask them to disclose what their disability is, but by participating, obviously, they're disclosing that they have a disability. I probably didn't answer your question, did I?
Sandy, are you on? Did you want to hop on or to ask? Should be.
So when our job candidates apply, I don't even know what their disabilities are. I don't know anything. When I get their application, I don't know anything about them other than who referred them and what they want to do.
Oh, okay. So she was asking, is that a concern? Like, do you not have people participate of the concern of disclosing their disability?
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I can.
Yes, so, and not necessarily that employers would know about their particular disability, but just in the fact that obviously there is an automatic disclosure there. disability disclosure. And so is that a concern, that individuals don't want to participate because of that automatic disclosure?
You know, we've not ever had anybody, no, it has not been. I could see how it could be, but anybody who works with us, anytime we advocate for them, they're kind of disclosing just because they work with folk rehab. And so usually people that want us to help them find employment are okay with businesses knowing that they're partnering with us.
Yeah. Okay. And there may be some concerns from some individuals that you're not even necessarily aware of, you know, because they may not necessarily bring those up, but.
That's right. Or they might say they're not interested and not tell us why they're not interested.
Exactly.
They might just say, I'm not interested in that event, and not share the specifics. But that's a really good question.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's just something that we've kind of looked at in the past. And we actually, I'm with Able, South Carolina, and we're a Center for Independent Living. And so 80% of our staff are people with disabilities. And I know we have a lot of individuals on staff that, you know, we're like, well, you know, I wouldn't necessarily be okay with that because that would be, you know, an automatic disability disclosure. And they have an invisible disability. And, you know,
right.
Like, well, you know, I know that employers still, you know, there's still stigma around people with disabilities working and such. And so we've kind of been talking through that if, you know, if that's something that we could see happening in the future or not.
Yeah, I wonder if you could maybe just call it a reverse job fair and open it up to anybody who'd want to participate, and it could be people with or without disabilities. Yeah,
and that's what I was kind of thinking, because we've partnered a lot with our Department of Employment and Workforce, which is American Job Center, and so obviously, you know, they serve individuals without disabilities and people with disabilities, and so if we partnered with them, and then, you know, employers wouldn't necessarily know unless you know, the individual disclosed.
Right. The other thing they had talked about doing, but we didn't, Voc Rehab didn't support it because we only work with people with disabilities. They had talked about doing like an untapped talent, and it could be anybody with any kind of a barrier.
Okay.
But our director really felt that if we were involved in the whole setting up of the and monitoring and I guess administering it, it needed to be with people with disabilities.
Yeah.
Because that's where our funding is for.
Yeah, and actually, I think the idea, you know, if you're not VR, I think the idea of having a combination reverse job fair is good, because I know a lot of colleges and universities do reverse job fairs.
Yes, that's where we got the idea. We stole it from a college.
And that's what,
and then we
steal those good ideas, right, Michelle?
Yes. Yes, so you could make this so much better by just having it be an untapped talent or just a reverse job fair, period. I think your outcomes could probably go through the roof. Because we've had really good outcomes. We've had phenomenal outcomes, and I'm really excited to tell you about those in a minute. The work readiness workshop, where they go through the stations and we talk about grooming and hygiene, what to wear, the interviewing where our business partners do that, the resume and application where our Iowa workforce partners are in charge of that. The elevator speech, on this one, we really make it interactive, and we use a cell phone and we record them and we get feedback, and we continue to work with them to kind of perfect it, and then we ask them to go practice in a mirror. The display, we call it Display 101, and this workshop, we actually sit down and we talk to the individuals, and learn what they want to do and really learn more about their strengths and their abilities and their gifts and their talents. And we make their display focus and highlight on what their talents are. And so one of our job candidates was on the DD waiver, and he had really limited cognitive abilities and really limited verbal abilities. And he had a one-on-one job coach with him, but he was super amazing at technology, like brilliant, amazing. And so his actual booth, we got one of those little Apple, they're those Apple balls, and you control it with your phone. And his was R2D2, and he stood at his table. And when people would walk by, he had his little R2D2 ball hit them in the foot. And they would look down and say, "What is that?" And then his job coach would say, "Come over here, we want to show you." And he actually was able, because of his skills and his talents, he got a job at the Science Center of Iowa in the IT lab. And so we really look at our job candidates' strengths, and we make that booth focus on what they're good at. We had a job candidate who, he was on our, we call it job club. So he'd been coming to our job club for 10 years. 10 years he'd been looking for a job. And he was on the spectrum and really had a difficult time talking about his skills and abilities. And he had a difficult time making eye contact. And he just bombed every interview, no matter how much support we provided, no matter how much guidance and counseling we provided. And so he wanted to work in a mailroom, and we made his booth, we made him dice. And instead of numbers on the dice, it was words. And so we really worked with him on having a script for each of the words. And employers would come up and they would roll the dice, and a word would come up, and he had his script memorized that he would repeat to the employer. And he did really well. He did so well that he was actually hired at Hy-Vee Corporate, and that's one of our grocery stores here, in their mailroom as a mailroom clerk, and he's full-time, and he makes like $14 an hour. And it was just really because he was able to demonstrate some fantastic skills when he was on the reverse job fair floor. One of our business partners is Hy-Vee, and we had our Hy-Vee business partner participate in the workshop, in the dry run, in everything. And so she really got to know him throughout this process. And she just kept going back to corporate and saying, "I met this man and he has all these awesome skills. He just has such a hard time talking about it. But I think if we let him try it, he would do really well." So he probably more got his job through making that connection with the recruiter and having that turn. Okay, so the next slide is the one-on-one coaching. And this is just really where we work with our job candidates on following up all of the things, the different things that we had worked with them on during the rehearsal. And then step 8 is the job fair rehearsal. And before we actually go to the actual reverse job fair, we do a mock one, and we go in beforehand and we space out the tables and we put the right tablecloths on the table. We have our handouts we created for our business partners, and we run through everything. And we learned during this that if you tell the job candidate it starts at 9, they're going to show up at 9. So you need to say, be there at 8, or starting at 9. We learned a lot about the parking through this whole rehearsal. Additionally, this is really where our job candidates gained a lot of their confidence in making presentations to businesses. So the next slide it's actually a graph of what our tables look like. And you'll see that there are all kinds of different colored tablecloths on there. And so I told you that all of our job candidates were identified by sector. And so green would represent, I can't see what it is, office work. And so everybody who was interested in office work had a green tablecloth. Those that were interested in doing customer service had a yellow tablecloth. Those who wanted to do the maintenance and trade had a blue tablecloth. Administrative support and medical had a red tablecloth. And so when we told our employers about our job candidates, so the next slide, I'm sorry, we gave them this chart that showed them what tables that would meet their needs. So they could go directly to the individuals who had the skill sets and interests in working in customer service, and working in retail, and working in the trade. And so this is really how we organized the whole event. And so then the next slide is actually the reverse job fair. And this is the most fun ever. It's so much fun to watch our job candidates talk about themselves and showcase themselves. And one of our job candidates had a Wheel of Fortune wheel, and the businesses were going up and spinning the wheel. And when it landed on something, he talked about that. And all of our booths are different, and all of them are fun. And all of them represent the personality of our job candidates. And so then the next slide still talks about kind of the details. We found that you have to arrive at least an hour before the event starts to get it set up. We like having an employer room, so if an employer wants to interview somebody, they can go right into that room and provide that interview on site. Our Center for Independent Living provides water and snacks for our businesses in the employer room. And so even if businesses just want to go in there and take a little break, have a cup of coffee, have some water, they just have a nice place to go. We found that we have to put up signs with arrows to get everybody to the right location. And we start those signs in the parking lot, directing them to the right room. The next slide is number 10, the follow-up. And so after the reverse job fair, as employers are leaving, we have them fill out a satisfaction survey. And then we also ask them if they were interested in any job candidate, and if so, which candidate that was, and what was the requisite number of the position they wished for that job candidate to apply for, so that we could make sure that we followed up with our job candidates and we have them apply for those jobs. Then we had our job candidates come in, we applied for the jobs, and then of course we followed up with our business partners like we would anytime our job candidates apply for jobs. And the next slide is our outcomes. This is my very favorite slide. So in Des Moines, we've had 5 reverse job fairs. Of those 5 reverse job fairs, we had 79 participants with 22 placements, which is a 28% placement rate, which is super exciting to us because nothing have we ever done have we had a 28% placement rate. Even better, the next slide is our project search site. So we did a reverse job fair with our project search students. We had 12 students who participated, and prior to graduation, after the reverse job fair, all 12 students gained employment. And these are good jobs. Some of them were hired at the hospital, which our project search site was at. Others were hired by a university. Those that had fitness goals were hired by the YMCA. And so it was just so rewarding. It was the very first year this project search had been, it was their very first year in existence, and to have a 100% placement rate and all of the job candidates were working where they wanted to work. It was just so inspiring. We wanted to do more. And so some of the feedback from our business partners was they loved that organization. They loved the tablecloth. They loved knowing where to go and who to talk to. They said, my favorite part was I could talk to every job seeker I was interested in rather than waiting for them to come to me. They've asked us to do more and more of these, and our business partners keep coming back. They much prefer this than a traditional job fair. And it's been really fun to watch because all over Iowa now you see these reverse job fairs, and they're doing more reverse job fairs in Iowa actually than job fairs because the outcomes have been so great. Our job candidate feedback, this one is my favorite. This guy, he said, I came to this robotic and I go to job fairs and I get my spiel done and then I go home. He said, but I learned that I can have conversations with people and I'm more confident. And I think that's the big thing. So many people have said to us, I have more confidence than I've ever had before. And one actually said, I didn't think I could work until I went through this. And the last slide is my contact information. I went over 30 minutes, I'm so sorry. Were there any more questions?
Okay. Yes, we do have a question from Schwan in Hawaii. She said, can Michelle explain more about the survey they used at the job fair?
The survey to businesses. So we have a satisfaction survey for every one of our job candidates and every one of our business partners so that we can learn what we did well and what we need to improve upon. And so I can send you a copy of that. We use that to make our next one better. So we love the feedback because it really helps us to fix what we sometimes think is the right thing, but it doesn't work so well sometimes for our business partners.
Michelle, thank you so much for your time. And
no, thank you.